Learn how to use React and TypeScript in this excellent course from Roadside Coder.
This is the only video that you will need to start building React apps with TypeScript. In this video, we will first learn the basics of TypeScript from absolute scratch and then learn how to integrate them in our React.js apps by building an awesome project. We will see how we can use TypeScript with React hooks such as useState, useRef, and useReducers. How to pass props from one component to another by defining prop types of the component, and much more. But wait, what is TypeScript and how is it different from JavaScript? So TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript and is built on top of that. According to TypeScript's website, TypeScript is JavaScript that scales, meaning it's perfect for big projects and production grade apps, plus it saves you from a lot, and I mean a lot of errors. And most of the apps that you use today are most likely built using TypeScript. So here's the project that we are going to build. It's called Taskify. So this is basically a to-do list app, but much more advanced. So if I go on and type learn TypeScript, and some more tasks, let's say go to shopping, buy some shoes. Now you can see there are multiple icons over here. First one is for editing icon. So let's say learn TypeScript now and press enter. So you can see the to-do has been edited. And we can also delete the to-do by clicking on this button. For example, if I click on this, you can see it has gotten deleted. And we can complete the to-do by clicking on this tick mark. Or there's another way to complete the to-do, to drag and drop it inside of this completed tasks section. This is an awesome feature of this app that we can drag and drop between active tasks and completed tasks. I included both of these ways to tick mark the to-dos and drag it to the completed to-dos so that you can use whichever suits you the best. Also, you can notice if I go on and type anything and press on go button, you're gonna see a button press animation just like this. And you can see I've included animations on these to-dos as well when we hover on them. So this is a really good app for beginners to learn React with TypeScript. Also, if you're interested in more such tutorials on React.js, be sure to check out my channel, which is called Roadside Coder. Recently, I've uploaded a full-fledged MERN stack chat app tutorial series on my channel. Link will be in the description below. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I've opened VS Code over here, and now let's quickly go to our terminal and initialize a new React app with TypeScript. But wait, we don't know how to do that. So let's go to our browser and search React TypeScript. And let's click on this link. Since we are going to use create React app, we're gonna go and click over here. So it's similar to our normal React app installation. We are just supposed to add this -- template TypeScript after it. So let's go ahead and do that. So npx create React app, and the name of our app, let's say TypeScript tutorial, and -- template TypeScript, and press enter. Now what this will do is it's going to go to npm's repository and it's going to initialize a new React app with all of the TypeScript dependencies, and all of the files are, instead of .js, going to be named as .tsx. So if we go back to our documentation, this is for starting a new create React app project. But if you have already a project that is up and running with React and JavaScript, you can add TypeScript by installing this npm install TypeScript with all of the types. Here we go, our React app has initialized. Now let's quickly switch to that folder by typing cd TypeScript tutorial, or we can go to file, open folder, and then open that folder. Here we go, let's have a look at the folder structure. So in the src, usually we see we have app.js over here, but now we have app.tsx and index.tsx. So let's go on and start our app by typing npm start. Here we go, our app has started successfully. Now let's go back to our VS Code, and I'm gonna remove few of the files that we don't need. So report web vitals, setup test, logo svg, app.test, and delete. Now it's going to complain because it was using those files somewhere. For example, inside of the app.tsx, we were using logo. So let's remove everything inside of here, and let's just type hello world for now. And inside of the index.tsx, we were using this report web vitals. So let's remove that, and let's see. There we go, we have hello world written over here. But you can see it's in the center. So let me remove all of the default styles from app.css. Now it's good. Now what is this type in TypeScript? So let's go on and understand the types that TypeScript provides us. So let's say right over here, if I go on and type let name equals Piyush. So in JavaScript, what happened was JavaScript automatically decides what the type of this variable is. So if we go on and hover on it, we can see the type is string. But in TypeScript, we are supposed to explicitly define those types. So just go on over here and type colon and string. So this is how you define the type of the variable. So if I go on and remove this, and if I try to say name equals, let's say 5, now you're gonna see an error. Type number is not assignable to type string. So this is a strict type checking which helps us in TypeScript. But if we go on and say Piyush, see, no problem. Now let's go on and assign let age to be a number. So we're gonna assign it a number type. Similarly, we have a bunch of other types as well, such as boolean, object, array, tuple, undefined, null, and a lot of them. So just like that, let's go on. How do we assign boolean? So let's say let is student and type boolean. So this is how we assign it to be boolean. Boolean can be true or false. Now what if we want to have a variable called hobbies and we want it to contain an array of hobbies which are basically string? So we're going to type colon string, and so it's going to be an array of string, right? So we're just going to add these braces in front of it. Now it says that this variable can only contain an array of strings. If we want it to be an array of numbers, so we can type number over here. Now next type is called tuple. Now what is tuple? So let's say if I go on and say role. So what tuple does is tuple contains a fixed amount of value and the types that are defined during the declaration. So let me just go on and type number comma string. So now what this variable can contain is it's going to contain one number and one string. So if I go on and say role equals provided both of the numbers, so it's going to have a problem. Type number is not assignable to type string. So this has to be a string. So something, yeah, there we go. It's working absolutely fine. So this is called a tuple. Now next is for objects. How do we define an object? So there are two ways to define an object. First is let person, our usual way, we can type colon and object. But this is not a recommended way to do this because an object can have a lot of properties inside of it, such as if I want person object to have a name and age. So how do we know that this person object contains all of these properties? So we use something called a type keyword or an interface keyword. Now don't worry, I'm going to discuss more about this type and interface later. But for now in introduction, I'm going to type type and we're going to define the type of this person object. So person. Now it's a good practice to keep the first letter of the types as capital. So I'm going to type person, and inside of it, let me just add a name and age property. So name is going to be a string and age is going to be a number. So now let's go on and assign this type person to this type variable. So now this object is going to contain all of the properties that are inside of this person type. So if I go on and equals, let's say name, and give it a name. Let's just give it just the name for now. Now you're gonna see it's complaining to us that property age is missing in this type. So this, as you can see, this type has name property and age property. So we are supposed to give it both of these properties. So if I go on and give, let's say age and save it, you're gonna see it's working absolutely fine. But what if we want to make this age property as optional? So we're just gonna go over here and add a question mark. So this means that this property is now optional. Now if I go on and remove it from over here, no problem, the app is working absolutely fine. Now what if we want to have another variable that is going to contain an array of person object? So if I go on and create let lots of people, so we want it to be an array of this object. So we're just gonna go over here and assign it the type of person and array. So just like we did up over here, if we want it to be an array of the person object, we can just assign it the type like this. So you see how easy it is to assign types in TypeScript. Now let me remove all of this stuff. Let me comment it out for now. Now over here, what if we want our, let's say, age variable to be a number and string, both of these. I want it to contain both number and string. So we're just gonna use something called union in TypeScript. So for union, you're gonna type this symbol and add another type to it. Let's go on and assign this. So let's say age. If I'm assigning a string, no problem, it's working fine. If I go on and assign a number, yep, it's working absolutely fine. All right, now let's say if we want to define a function, print name, and what this function does is it takes a name and it just console logs it. So now we have an error. So it says the name implicitly has an any type. Okay, no problem. It says this name has an any type. So let's just provide it a type of string. Now if we go on and assign this print name name, then it's going to go and print that just like this. But what is the way to provide a type to a function? How do we declare a function type? So there are two ways to define a function. One, let's say if I go on and say let print name, I can provide it the type of function. This works absolutely fine. Okay, it says print name already been defined. Let me just remove this for now. So this works absolutely fine. You can use this function type, but just like objects, there's a better way to assign a function. So what we can do is we can properly define the function of how many things it's going to contain. So let's say if it takes the name, so it's going to take a type of name, which is going to be a string. And what is it going to return? For in our case, it wasn't returning anything. So the return type was void. So this is how you assign the type to a name. Now don't worry if you're having problem understanding all of this stuff. When we go on and create our project, then you are going to understand all of these things in much in depth. So just like this void return type, this can have a number return type, a string return type, a custom return type, just like this person over here. Now what if we want any of these to have any value? Let's say if I want the name to have any value inside of it, not just restricted to a string or number or anything, we can give it the any type. So any types doesn't have any restriction. You can literally keep anything inside of it, but this is not recommended, because obviously why would we need TypeScript if we just want to give this any type to anything? So it's recommended to give type to each and every variable in TypeScript. Now I said it's not recommended to use any, but instead of any, there's a much better type that you can use. So that type is called unknown. So if I go on and say person name, if we don't know what type it's going to be, so we can go ahead and type unknown over here. And it can also take any type. So this is recommended instead of any. So just like this, since we have defined a function over here and we don't know what this is going to return, if we don't even know if it's going to return anything or not, so we're just going to go and type never. So what void does is, what's the difference between void and never is, void returns undefined, but never doesn't returns anything. So this is the difference between void and never. I would highly recommend you to go and have a read on this documentation. So if you go on and search TypeScript, oops, I made a typo. Yep, TypeScript, and just go on this website, typescriptlang.org, and click on this docs over here, and click on the TypeScript handbook. Yep, there is this documentation. So in the basic, just go on over here and click on everyday types. So see any and functions and bunch of other types. You can see over here all of the types that's defined over here. So I would highly recommend you to go and have a read on this page. I'm gonna include the link to this page in the description. Alright, cool. Now let's get back to this thing. I told you that we're gonna go deep into this. So what is this thing called type? So this type is something called as alias. So alias are of two types. One is type and other is interface. So let's go on and explore both of these. So you've already seen this type called type person. So how do we define this? By using an interface. So let me just go on over here. And if we want to define it with interface, just add interface over here and just remove this equal sign. Now it's going to work absolutely same as this type was working. So now you might be thinking, then what's the point of including both of these? What's the difference between them? So let me tell you the difference between them. So in type, what happens is, so let me just define a type. Let's say type X is going to have, let's say A, which is a string, and B, which is number. Now if we have created another such type called type Y, see, and Now what if we want to use these properties from type X inside of this type Y? So what we can do is just go on over here and add X. And so what this will do is it's going to contain all of these properties and all of this property as well. So if I go on and let Y equals and Y and assign this Y type, and inside of it, if I go on and add C, which is a string, so something, let me just add something for now, D, which is a number. So you're gonna see it's complaining that it is missing some values, A, comma B. But if I remove this, then it's going to be working absolutely fine. See? So in this case, we are supposed to provide it these values, this A and B. So type can be extended like this. But how do we do this in the case of an interface? So let me just go on over here and type interface, let's say guy, profession, which is going to be a string. Oops, I'm missing a T over here. Yep. So what if we want to extend person in this guy interface? So it's easier than type. So we're just going to type extends person. So what I personally do is I like to use interface a lot. So it makes things a lot easier. It helps you extend it easily. So if you're aware of classes in JavaScript, so we have classes like this. How you can provide the type to a class is by using the interface. So class name extends this interface person. But let's just not get into it for now. It's not helpful right now for us. So what if this person interface wants to extend the type? So let me just remove these. Now we can extend these both as well. If we want to have the properties of person inside of the X, we're just going to do person and it's going to work absolutely fine. Now if we want to do vice versa, that if we want to have the properties of X inside of the person, then we can do extends X and it's going to work absolutely fine. So this is how this works. So let me remove all of this now. Now all of the basics of TypeScript out of the way, it's time to start building our React app and understand how we use TypeScript with React State, React hooks, props, etc. So one thing that I forgot to mention, that this app is divided into two parts. In this video, I will explain you whole React and TypeScript part of this app. And in our next video, we are going to implement the drag and drop. In this video, we are going to create this app. So let's say learn TypeScript, enter, do something, and some others as well. Yeah, so in this video, we're gonna build this simplified version of this app so that if you are only here to understand the React TypeScript part, you're not going to have to waste your time. And in our next video, we are going to implement that drag and drop feature that I showed you earlier in the intro video. Other than drag and drop, it's absolutely same. You can edit them as well. You can mark them as completed and stuff like that. So let's go on and build this app. So I'm gonna dock it to the side. Now let me first convert this function into an arrow function. So to define the type of this component, first let me just hover on it. You can see it tells us the type definition of this component, that this is a function that returns us jsx.element. So this is jsx.element that is returned by this function. But what is this function all about? What is the exact type of this function? So this is a functional component, right? So we're just going to go over here and colon react.fc. So this is a functional component. So we are providing it the type of this react.fc. Now there are a bunch of other types as well. So if you go on and click ctrl space, and you're gonna see there are a lot of types. So one of those types is React node. So this supports all of the types. So this can be Boolean, this can be React.ReactChild, React fragment, React portal, null, undefined, and all of these stuff. But since we want it to be a functional component, so we're gonna type React FC. Now let's go inside of it. Instead of this, I'm gonna type span and give this a class name of heading, and inside of it I'm gonna write Taskify, which is going to be the name of our app. There we go. Let's give this thing some basic styles. So if I go on app inside of app.css, I'm gonna import a Google font called Nucha. Let's go to Google and type Nucha font. Here it is. And just click on select this style and click on import and take this font and paste it over here. So let's first give our app tag some styles. So I'm just gonna bring the styles in for app and heading because I don't want to waste time writing CSS because this is a TypeScript tutorial, not CSS tutorial. So there we go. What just nothing, this is the generic styles. I'm just giving it some width and height of 100 viewport width and 100 viewport height, some display flex and flex direction column so that all of the things inside of it are aligned from top to bottom. Align items to be the center, and background color is going to be this bluish color. Font family is the one that we have imported just a minute ago. For heading, we are going to give transform text uppercase, font size of 40 pixels, some margin, some color, and Z index is going to be 1 because we always want it to be on the top. Now you're going to understand why I have provided it in just a minute when I provide this, the animation, so that this doesn't get faded away in the back. It appears always on the top. So we're going to care about that later. And some text aligned to be the center. And I'm just going to give it some media query as well. That is, when it's smaller than 800 pixels, what's gonna happen is the margin of top and bottom is going to be 15 pixels instead of 30 pixels, and font size is going to be 35 pixels. That's all. Cool. Let's move forward. Go to app.tsx and create our input field. That is this thing, this input field. So below this span, I'm gonna create a new component called input field. So input field. Now obviously this component doesn't exist yet. So let's create a new folder called components, and inside of it I'm going to create a new component called input field.tsx, RAFCE. Now if you don't know how I did this, I'm using an extension called ES7 React Redux, something like that. Yep, this is the one. So you can download it and you can type RAFCE and it's going to generate this boilerplate. So I'm just going to type for now input over here and import it by typing ctrl space over here, and it's going to auto import this. Yep, there we go. Now let's start building this thing. So inside of this div, and you know what, I'm just gonna have a form over here since it's going to be a form. So instead of form, and let's say the form is going to have a class name of input, and inside of this I'm going to have an input tag. So input, it's going to be of type input, placeholder is going to say enter a task, and yep, just like that, it's beginning to take shape. And we're going to have a class name, so class name of input box. So now if you don't know what this naming pattern that I'm following is, this is called BEM convention of writing CSS class names. You can just Google it and read more about it. It's not important right now, but this is BEM convention of writing CSS class name. You can ignore it if you want and give your own class names. And now below this, I'm going to have a button, which is going to say go. And it's going to have a class name of submit and type of submit. Yeah, there we go. Now let's style both of these real quick. I'm going to create a CSS file over here called styles.css and import that file inside of it. So import styles.css, and inside of this styles.css I'm gonna add the classes. So let me explain you one by one. So first of all, for the parent tag, the input tag, I'm going to have a display flex and width is going to be 90. Currently I haven't given the width to this input box, that's why this is not working, but I'm going to give it real soon. I'm giving it position of relative because we are going to make this button inside of this. We are going to position this button inside of it, this input box, right? So we are going to give this an absolute positioning. That's why we are giving the parent container as relative positioning, and align items to be the center. Now for input box, just like this, width is going to be the 100%, border radius, some padding on top, bottom and left, right, some font size, some border. You can see these are just generic styles, some transitions so that our animations looks smooth because we are adding the animation over here. You can see the button animation. Now below this, we are gonna add some focus classes. So whenever we click on this, whole screen goes dark and only this appears properly. So if I go and click on this, you can see. Now what does this inset box shadow mean? So you can see over here, there's box shadow inside of this input box. So this inset is for that. And when we focus on this, what's going to happen is it's going to provide box shadow outside of all of the outside part of this input box. So this is what it's happening. So focus pseudo class is used when we click on this input box. So this is just basic CSS. Now for our button, that is input.submit, we're going to provide this class. So position is going to be absolute. Oops, I think single colon. So yep, single colon. Yep, just like that. So currently the animations are not working, but I'm going to make them work in just a minute. So position is going to be absolute, because if we don't do this, see what's going to happen. It's going to be outside of it. So we want it to be position inside, and right is going to be 0, so that we want it to be an absolute right side. Some width and height, some margin, some border radius. Border is going to be none, some font size, background color, and just generic styles. Some little bit of box shadow that you can see over here below this. So that's all. Now let's provide it the animation. So when we hover on it, first of all, what's going to happen is you can see it glows up. So let's provide the hover class to it. There we go. You can see background color gets a little bit brighter. And when it's active, that is when we click on it, we want an animation to happen. So transform is going to be scale 0.8. We want it to become a little bit smaller. See, just like this. And box shadow is going to be a little bit smaller as well, from 10 pixel to 5 pixels, so that it gives us some depth effect. Now let's come to our main functionality of our app, that is creating the state for our to do. So inside of app.tsx, let's create our first state. So I'm going to type useState, and let's give this state the name of to do, and it's going to have an initial value of empty. Let's import the useState. Yep, just like that. Now we are supposed to give this state a type. Since we are using TypeScript, so we are supposed to give this a type, right? So since we have given this an empty string, let's see what this type is. This is the type of string. So we are supposed to give this a type of string. If we remove this and hover on this, you can see the type is now undefined because it doesn't know what the type is. But we are supposed to give this the type of string because our to do will be of the type string, right? So type string, and let me just give it some initial value of empty. So this is how you define the string, by using these brackets, these pointed brackets over here. Now what if we want to accept multiple types of value inside of it? So just like I explained earlier, we can use a union over here and give this number, and just like this, it's going to be working absolutely fine. So the rules that I explained you earlier in the video, all of the rules apply over here as well. If you want to be array, you can add this like this. Okay, cool. Now let's just provide this to do and set to do to our input field component. So just like normal React, to do, just like this, we are going to give it. But now it's going to give us an error because it says property to do does not exist on this component. So we are supposed to make it exist on this component. So let's go to over here and let's try to accept it. To do, comma, set to do. It's still going to give us error. Binding element to do implicitly has an any type. So this thing has an any type. So we are supposed to define the type to this. So we can just go on over here outside these brackets and colon and provide these the types. So to do is going to have a type and set to do is going to have a type. So let me just, instead of writing it over here, I'm just going to create it right over here. So I'm just going to create an interface that I explained you earlier. So interface, let's say props. So props is going to have value of to do and set to do. So we know to do, what is to do? It's string, right? Easy. But what is set to do? Because set to do is a function, right? So how do we know what set to do's type is? So let's go back to app.tsx, and it's easy to know that. If you go on and hover on this, you're gonna see this thing written over here, react.dispatch. Now you might not be able to understand what this exactly is. So just go on and copy this up and paste it over here. And now you're gonna see that we haven't provided it this types. So props. Yep, now it's going to work fine. Yep, there we go. Our app is working absolutely fine. So this is just basically the type of this set to do. You don't need to understand all of this. This is just basically the type of, you can just take these from hovering onto this. Awesome. So I hope you're having the gist of how we use this stuff. Now, instead of defining the props over here, what you can do is you can also give these like this. So as I told you already, this is a functional component, so react.fc, and in front of it we can provide these props just like this. Whatever you find easier, you can use it. So this thing is basically not that much necessary because it already knows that this is a functional component. Now let's simply go to our input tag and give it a value of to do, and on change it's going to change our to do state. And I'm going to take an event e.target.value. Now let's try to do console log over here and see if it's working. To do, go to something. Yep, it's working fine. Great. Now the to do that we are going to create is going to have a few properties inside of it. The first property is going to have a unique ID. So if I go on over here and create a to do over here, so this to do has many properties. It has first this to do property which contains this text inside of it. Other one is going to be a unique ID, and the third one is going to be is done variable. So is done means if it's done or not, if it's completed or not. So this is going to be keeping the track of that thing. So let's go on and create a model for our to do, because we are going to use this to do at a lot of places. So let's just create it separately. So I'm going to create a new file called model.ts, not tsx, because it's just going to be a normal TypeScript file. So inside of it, I'm going to create an interface called to do, and it's going to have the properties that I mentioned called ID, which is going to be number, obviously, a to do property, which is going to be a string, and a is done property, which is going to be Boolean. Great. Now we want to use it somewhere else. So let's just export this thing. So export interface. Yep. Great. Now we're going to create another state which will contain all of our to-dos. So we are constantly entering our to-dos over here. So this has to be inside of a particular state, right? So use state, and let's name it to-dos, and it's going to be an empty array. Now you might be thinking, how are we going to provide this the type? So what type is it going to be? Because it's going to be an array of to-dos. So we are going to import the model that we have created, to do. Here we go, it has been imported. So to do, and it's going to be an array. So we're going to make it an array. So this is how you create an array of a type or an interface. Awesome. Now let's try to create a handle add function which will add the to-dos to this state. So let's go back to our app, and I'm gonna create a new function over here, const handle add. It's going to take something inside of it and it's going to return. So this is a function over here. Now it's going to take an event from on submit. So right over here, from whenever we submit the form, it should add this inside of our handle add. Now let's take this function and pass this to our input field, and it should give us an error because this function doesn't exist. Yep, there we go. Now what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to add this function over here in these props. So handle add, what is this function going to be? So just like I taught you earlier, we are supposed to define a function just like this. So since this function is not going to return anything, so I'm just gonna write it like this function, and it returns nothing. So let's resave it over here. Yep, just like that. Now what are we going to do? Whenever we click on this go button, so whenever we press submit, this function should fire off. So on submit, we have to fire off this handle add function. Great. Now one thing you will notice, whenever you press on go, you can see the page refreshes. So to avoid that, what we do is we go to in our normal JavaScript, what we do is we just go to this function and we take an event variable over here and just write event.prevent default. Right, but it's gonna give us this error. E implicitly has an any type, so we are supposed to provide this a type. So let's go on Google and type event type in React TypeScript. So I'm just trying to show you over here what you need to do whenever you get stuck in a particular thing in React TypeScript. So let's go on over here, and you can see it has given us this type, React change event HTML input element. So we can take this, but there is a better type Instead of this, let's search it, react.synthetic event. Or there's one more type called react.form event that we can use. Yep, there we go. React.form event. So all of these are going to work. So, but I'm just explaining you the best that you should use. React.form event. Now it's not going to give us any error. Okay, so it's giving us error because we haven't set this type over there, over into our props right over here. So we are supposed to define this over here as well, because we are supposed to define it everywhere we are sending this variable. So great, that's awesome. Now whenever we click on this handle add, what should happen is it should set our state. It should set our to-dos. So set to-dos to be what? First of all, we're gonna check if there's something inside of the to-do. Then only just we are supposed to set the to-do, right? So set to-do and take whatever that is already inside of the to-dos of this variable, and we are gonna add another to-do. So comma, what was the 3 fields? First was ID. So we're gonna generate a random ID. For that, let's just type date.now. So this is going to generate a random ID for this. So now you can see as soon as I save, it's going to complain, is missing the following properties, to do and is done. So let's just add them, comma to do. To do is going to be to do and is done. Obviously it's just created, so it's not done. So I'm just gonna give this by default false. Oops, I wrote data over here. So date.now. Yep. So instead of writing this to do colon to do, we can just write to do, since these both are same name. Awesome, that's fine, it's working fine. And now what after this, after the to do has been created, what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to empty this input field, right? So set to do is going to be empty. All right, cool, let's try this out. I'm gonna do console log. So I'm gonna console log to do's. Okay, let's go to inspect console. If I click on go, yep, there we go. It has generated this array and emptied that. Yep, there we go. If we go on over here, yeah, it has created both of these to do with some random ID, is done and false. Awesome. Now let's go on and render all of these to do in form of this component, this card type of component. So I'm gonna go over here and create a new component called to do list. Now we are supposed to create this to do list component. But before we do this, I forgot to do one thing. So if we go on inside of the input field, there's one problem over here. So if we go on and type and press enter, so you can see it maintains this shadow state. So if we go on again and press enter, so it's maintaining this shadow state. So what's the solution for this? Whenever we press enter, it should get rid of this background shadow. So for that, we are going to use a React hook called useRef. So let's see how we use useRef with TypeScript. First of all, we are supposed to add it in handle submit. So let me just write handle submit like this. For now, let me just render all of those to-dos over here. To-dos.map so that we can see all of them. So you can see all of these to-dos are beginning to appear over here. Great. Now if we go on over here, we are going to create a useRef. So if you don't know what useRef is basically like when we use document.getElement by class name or document.getElement by ID, we are hooking that particular component's HTML. So just go on over here and type useRef, and I'm gonna name this ref as input ref, and the initial value is going to be null. Let's import this ref just like that. And we are going to provide this ref to our input tag. So ref equals input ref. So this is how it works. But how are we supposed to give this ref a type now? What is going to be the type of this input tag? So it's very easy. Just go on over here and hover on it, and you're gonna see some bunch of crap written over here which no one understands. So what we are going to do, we're just going to take this thing, HTML input element. So this is what we need. So if we want to identify the type of this form, this is the type of the form, HTML form element. So this is a pattern actually. So if we are supposed to write for div, it's HTML div element. So for input, it's HTML input element. So let's take this, and just like useRef, we are going to add it inside of these brackets over here. So HTML input element. Now it knows that this is an HTML input element. So what we are going to do to get rid of this blur, whenever we press enter. So on submit, it's just gonna perform this handle add, and what else it's going to do? It's going to take this input ref. Now I'm gonna show you what's the advantage of adding a type over here. So input ref dot, it has a object called current, so it's showing us this current dot. Now you're gonna see we have all of the function that we can perform on this thing, on this input object. So we have a function called blur over here. So we're gonna use blur. So what blur does is it shifts the focus from this input box. We have added the blur over here, and you can see it has already automatically added this question mark, because it's not sure if it's going to be optional or if it's going to be having any value inside of it. So yep, let's go ahead and try it out. If you type anything and press enter, yeah, there we go. It has got rid of that blur. So this is how we use useRef hook with TypeScript. Let's go back to our app.tsx, and we are going to create a TodoList component. Let's go inside of our component and create a new file called TodoList.tsx. RAFCE, just like that. It's going to be a react.functional component. And let's import this thing first. There we go, it has imported. Now let's go inside of this TodoList component and create this. So inside of this div, first of all, I'm gonna give this div a class name of todos. And let's import our style sheet as well. So import /styles.css. Inside of this todos div, I'm gonna map through all of the todos. But wait, we don't have the todos over here. So we are supposed to bring them in. So we are supposed to bring in todos and set todos as well, because we are going to delete them from this component. So we are going to delete them and mark them as complete. So we are going to need set todos as well. So set todos. Now it's obviously going to complain because we haven't defined the the type of these todos and set todos. So let's define this over here. Interface props todos. So what todos was? It was an array of the type todo. So let's import todo first. Yep, just like that. And it was an array of todos. Great. Now next thing was set todos. Now again, we don't know how do we define this thing. So let's just go to app.tsx and hover on this. And let's just take this thing and bring it over here. Yep, that's absolutely fine. Oh, okay, we haven't assigned it. I always forget to assign props. And let's refresh it. Yep, it's fine. It just says we haven't imported it, right? Oh, okay. So it says that we haven't provided it this todos and set todos. So let's just provide it real quick. Todos. See, this is what I like about TypeScript. It clearly tells you what is going wrong. In JS, you might be wondering, oh, okay, so what's going on? Why it's giving error? So set todos. It's clearly showing you that what you are supposed to do next in your application. So let's go back to our TodoList app. Yeah, and let's start to map all of those todos. Todos.map to SingleTodo. And inside of it, let's just create all of this, of the card component. Let's create a separate component for this card itself. So I'm going to create a separate component called SingleTodo. So for now, let me just add a list over here to see if it's working fine or not. Todo. So if you just remove it and see by typing dot, you can see we have three properties: ID, is done, and to do. So we need to do from over here. Let me provide this todos a little bit of styling. So inside of styles.css, I'm going to add this to do. So it's going to be display flex, just like this. So it appears in a similar line. And when there are more than one to do, it just wraps into another line. So it's not going to work now because we haven't created those card component. So display flex, justify content space evenly so that there's space between them with 90%, and flex wrap of wrap. So let's go on and create that SingleTodo component. So instead of this, so let's create a new component called SingleTodo.tsx. RAFCE, just like that. Now, if we go back to our app, you can see we have few icons over here. For example, this edit icon, this delete icon, and this tick mark or complete icon. So for this, we are using a library called React icons. So if you Google search React icons, you're gonna find this result over here. And let's just install this library, npm install React icons. I'm gonna open another terminal and install it. Now meanwhile this is installing, let's go to React icons and search an edit icon. So you can see this is the edit icon that we are going to use. Let's search a delete icon. This is the delete icons, so just like that, a tick or done maybe. Yeah, there we go. This is the done icon. So this is what we are going to use. Here we go. The React icons have installed successfully. Let's continue building our app. So what are the things that we are going to send to this SingleTodo component? So let's go to our to-do list and first of all import this over here. SingleTodo. Yep, just like that. So we're gonna send it this to do, obviously. So to do, and since we are mapping it, so we are gonna provide it the key todo.id, and we're gonna send it all of the to-dos. So to-dos, so all of the to-dos are going to be needed for deleting the stuff and editing the stuff like that. So to-dos. Now it's going to give us the error because we haven't set the props yet, obviously. So set to-dos. Yep, just like that. And now we have to deal with some errors, I believe. Yep, there we go. Over here, first let me receive all of those things. So to do, comma, to-dos, comma, set to-dos. And over here, let's define an interface. Or you know what, let's just define a type so that you can get the hang of both of these things. Props. And as you know, in the interface, we don't write this equal sign, but in type we do. So first of all, the to do, what's going to be the type of to do? The model that we created. Now second, to do's that we are sending. So what's going to be the type of to do's? It's going to be an array of to do's. And then the third, set to do's. It's going to be the type that we copied over here, just like this. There we go. Now it shouldn't be a problem. And let's define it over here, just like that. Yeah, it's working fine. All right, let's start building our SingleTodo component. So this is also going to be a form because we are going to add the edit functionality. You're going to know why I made this a form when I create the edit functionality. And inside of this, I have a span with the class name of todos single text. So this is basically going to display the to-do.to-do. Let's see if this works or not. If I go on and press enter, yep, it's displaying the to-do. Now below this we're gonna have our div. Inside that div, we're gonna create all of this stuff. All of these icons. First icon, and we're gonna keep them inside of the span tag. So let's give them the class name of icon. We're gonna have 3 icons. So first one will be fill edit text. So AI fill edit. So how do we use this? If I go on and click on this, yeah. So if I go on over here and paste it, now I'm gonna tell you how you can use React icons. So you need to pay attention over here. What is written at the first 2 letters? So this is AI type of icon. So there are many type of icon. Let me show you. Import from React icons. So if we go and press slash, there are a bunch of types of icon like AI, BI, BS, CG. So we need AI, right? So click on just like that and just take this and import it from over there. Save this. It should work if I'm not wrong. Yep, yeah, there we go. It has generated this edit icon. So just like that, what we need is AI fill delete, and AI third one was something else, I believe. Let's see. So let's take that and comma. Yep, that's that. And the third one was MD done. So you can just go on and just search it over here. And this was the one, MD done. So MD done, and now you're supposed to import it from the MD. So just replicate it. MD done from MD. Yep. Yep, it has all of those 3 icons. Awesome. Let's go on and style these. So I'm gonna import our style sheet over here. go inside of the styles. So first of all, for our todos.single, that is this style, it's going to have display of flex, and width is going to be 29.5 in a normal screen. But when we make this response, so as you can see, it doesn't look good right now, so I'll make it better in the responsive. So when the screen size is less than 800 pixels, I'm gonna make it full size. So I'm just gonna do that just in a minute. So after that, border radius is going to be 5 pixel, padding is going to be 20 pixels inside of it, and margin top is going to be having 15 pixel, as you can see, so that it maintains a little bit of gapping, and some background image. So you can take this background image from the Git repository. So where are you going to find the Git repository? Just go to github.com/piyush-eon. Inside the repository, now search over here TypeScript. So you can see React TypeScript Taskify. Just go on over here, and this is important. You just click on over here and click on this React TypeScript tutorial branch. So all of the code that I'm teaching in this tutorial, it's going to be inside of the React TypeScript tutorial branch. So you go to src, components, styles, and the link is right over here. You can take the link of this picture, or you can add your own picture, just like you want. Yeah. So next, to do single.text. Now we are styling our text a little bit, this text. So flex1 means that it's going to take all of the available space, and it's going to push all of the content to the other side of this box. Border is going to be none, font size is going to be 20 pixels. And now this is going to be used when we make it an input box. So right now you don't need to pay attention to this. So icon, yep, all of these icons are going to have margin left of 10 pixels, font size of 25 pixels, and cursor is going to be pointer, so that you can see our cursor becomes a pointer. Let me quickly add the responsiveness to it. For our input box, is going to be having width of 95% when the screen size is less than 700 pixels. To-dos are going to be having width of 95%, that is this, and to-do single is going to be having width of 100%, that is this single component, and to-dos is going to be the the whole list, right? So if I save this, see, it looks good. Now in the bigger screens, the width is going to be 40% for this single to-do component. So yeah, that's all. All right, now let's try to enter more to-dos. Awesome. So, and if we go on smaller screen, yep, it's perfectly responsive. But now you can see this is not working because we haven't created the functionality for them yet, for the edit, delete, and done. So let's go on and do that. So first of all, I'm gonna add the functionality for done. So on md done span, I'm gonna add an onClick function, and what it's gonna do, it's gonna fire off a handle done function, and it's going to send it its ID, to do ID. So this handle done doesn't exist yet, so let's go on and create it. Const handle done, just like this. And you can see it says that you are sending this to do.id, but you are not receiving it over there. So let's receive it over there. So we are going to receive the ID over here, and this ID is going to be of type number. So now what are we going to do with this ID? We're going to manipulate our set to-dos state with the help of this ID. So to-dos dot map. So what are we going to do? We are going to map through this array, and whichever ID matches with this ID, we're gonna make the isDone property of that from false to true, and vice versa. So we're gonna take to do, and we're gonna say if to do dot ID matches with, if to do dot ID is equal to the ID that we are sending, then what are we supposed to do? We're gonna take that to do, all of the properties, and we're gonna change the isDone property. So, comma is done, and we're gonna invert the value that was already there. So invert to do dot is done. Otherwise, we're just gonna return the to do, just like that. Oh, I forgot to wrap whole of this stuff in the map. So yeah, now it's working fine. The spelling mistake over here is done. Yeah, now it's working fine. Now if you go on and click over here, it's gonna make it disabled, but obviously you can't see it right now because we haven't implemented it. So what we are going to do, we're going to check it over here. If this is completed, then just strike it off. Go on over here, and we are going to check. So to do, the current to do dot is done. If it is done, then it's going to strike it off. Otherwise, it's going to render the normal one. So it's going to render the normal one over here. Otherwise, it's going to, instead of span, just S, that is strike tag. So you can see it has been done. If I click again over here, it's not done. Yeah, just like that. Now let's go on and implement the delete functionality. So I'm gonna go over here and let's copy this up. Just like this, I'm gonna add it over here. And instead of handle done, we're gonna add handle delete. Let's create the handle delete function right below this, const handle delete. And just like that, it's going to take the ID, which is going to be a number. Now it's fairly simple. We're just going to do, what we are going to do is filter. So set todos dot filter to do, and if todo dot id is not equals to id, only then return. So that means if we click on this, instead of this id, all of them will be returned and this one will be deleted. So if I click on this, yeah, there we go. This is how it works. Awesome. Now a little complex part, we are going to implement the edit functionality. So let's go on and do that. So for that, we are going to create two states. First one will keep the track if the edit mode is on or not, and the second one will keep the value of the edited to do. So use state. First one will be for edit, which will be true or false. So it's going to be Boolean. So let's add this type of Boolean. Also import useState. Yeah, so it has imported the useState. So other one, it's going to keep the edit to do text. So edit to do. So it's going to be string. It's going to be empty by default. You know what? It's not going to be empty. Actually, it's going to contain this thing already. So todo dot to do. It's going to contain the todo dot to do inside of it, so that whenever we press the edit mode, the input box appears with this to do value. Just go on over here for edit on click. What are we gonna do? We're gonna check if edit mode is on or not. So if edit mode is not on, and to do dot is if it's not done. So if it's not done, so because if it's already done, then what's the point of editing it? So if it's not done, only then we are going to edit it. Then set edit to be the value of, then set edit to close. Then we are not supposed to edit it, right? Oops, I forgot to do this. Got to create a callback over here. So if it's not done, then only we are supposed to edit it. Right, cool. So this will help us switch between the edit modes. So if I go on and do this, currently it's not going to work. So we have to add an input field over here and conditional over here. So let's add the conditional. So I'm gonna say if edit mode is on, then it's going to display the input box. Other than that, if it's not on, then it's going to display the normal, that is this part. Okay, add an input. Just like that. What's wrong? Oh, we are supposed to remove this thing. Yep, it's fine. Yeah, there we go. If I click on this again, let me do this. Oh, okay, we have not styled it yet. So let's just first create it, then I'm gonna style it. So first of all, the value is inside of it. It's going to be this thing, this edit to do. So what value did we put inside of it? To do dot to do. So you're gonna see, as I put this on, yep, it appears. So let me refresh this page, and if I click on it, yep, you can see it appears. Second, we're gonna add an onChange function. So on change, we're gonna update this set edit to do, this thing, set edit to do. So on change, let's say event dot target dot value. So add the event over here. Yep. And it's going to have a class name for us to style this thing of to-dos single text. Again, following the BEM convention over here. Yep, so there we go. Also, whenever we press on this, so on change, what on change will do, it's just going to update the state. But what I want, whenever I press enter, then it's going to change the state, or it's going to submit it and change the actual to do. So I'm going to create a handle edit over here, and it's going to be firing off whenever it's submitted. So submit handle edit. So it's going to take two things. First of all, the event, and the other thing is going to be todo.id. So this hasn't been created yet. Let's create it first. Const handle edit. There will be two things. First, the event, which will be of type react.form event, and other one will be id, which will be of type number. All right, cool. So after this has been submitted, what it's going to do? First of all, it's going to be preventing the default behavior so that the screen doesn't get refreshed. And then we're going to set the to-dos. To-dos.map. And inside of it, if the to-do.id matches the ID that is sent by them, that is sent by the onSubmit, then what it's going to do, it's going to take all of the to-dos, all of the to-dos properties, and instead of, like, for example, we're just like we did it with isDone, we're just going to update the to-do. So to-do will be edit to-do, and if it doesn't matches, it's just going to return this to-do. That's all. And after this, it's going to set edit to false, just like that. So let's go on and try this. If I go and type hello and press enter, yep, you can see it has been edited. Hello world, press enter. Yep, the editing is working absolutely fine. So let's first style this so that it doesn't look ugly. Also, if you remember, I set this over here, this thing, outline none. If I remove this, you're gonna see, if I click on this, you're gonna see this ugly outline over here. So if I remove this, you're not gonna see this outline over here. Oh, so it was text, and that I have, okay. I've written this test over here. Yep, now it should work. Yep, there we go. So yeah, I guess it's working absolutely fine. But you know, there's one flaw that I just noticed. If we click on this edit button, you can see the focus does not go inside of this input component. We have to manually click over here and then type it. So let's just take care of that. So we're just going to again make the use of useRef hook. So useRef, and I'm gonna name it input ref. You can name it anything, doesn't really matter. And just like we did earlier, first of all, let me import this. And just like we did earlier, let's take this thing. Where did it go? Yeah, HTML input element. Yeah, and provide this ref equals input ref. And we're gonna create a use effect over here, which whenever the edit changes, it's going to fire off this. That means it's going to, what it's going to do, so let me show you. Input ref. First of all, let me put input ref above this one. Yeah, so input ref dot current dot focus. So it's going to focus on that thing whenever this changes. So if I go and press edit, yep, you can see the focus is already inside of this. Yep, it's working fine. Cool. So our to-do list app has been successfully completed. But there's one more thing left that I need to explain you. That is useReducer hook. So for explaining useReducer hook, now if you don't know what useReducer hook is, I've created a full video on this. My previous video was on useReducer hook. I've taught how you can create a shopping cart app by using useReducer hook. So you can go on and watch that video. Link will be in the description or I button above. So, but if you already know, let's go on and understand how we can use the TypeScript with useReducer hook. So inside of this models.tsx, I'm just going to explain you. So this is going to be a homework to you. I'm going to explain you useReducer hook, and your job will be to implement it inside of this project. So let's say if we have created a component over here, let me create a dummy component. And inside of it, we're gonna create a reducer by using useReducer. And as I told you in the previous video, what we do in useReducer, we provide it an initial value. So we provide this initial value. First of all, let me just import it just like this. So let's bring it down over here. Yeah, we can import it like this. And now we're going to provide it a reducer. So let's say to do useReducer. And it's going to return us the state and dispatch. Now let's create this to-do reducer. So const to-do reducer. Now what do the reducer take? It takes a state and it takes the actions. So we need to provide the types to our state and action. So let's just first write state, comma, action. So what is the state going to be? So state is going to be the array of to-dos, right? So we can just take this interface and write to-do and the array of to-do. So this is how we define the state. And what are we going to keep in our action? So our action are going to have three things: add the to-do, remove the to-do, and done. So it's going to perform three actions. So let's create the type for our action. So type actions, and it's going to first action. What is going to be? So we want them to be one at a time, right? Either add can be performed or remove or done can be performed. So we're just gonna write like this. Inside the curly braces, we're gonna write type, because obviously this action has two properties, right? One is type and other is payload. So type is going to be add, and the payload is going to be a string, because we are sending something to add something. We are going to send the string from the input box. So this, otherwise what's going to happen is, so let me just write this over here. Otherwise, let me copy this up. Otherwise this is going to happen. It's going to have remove action, and for removing we just need to send the ID. So we're going to type number over here. Otherwise we're gonna do done action, and it's going to be number as well. So this is how you define your actions. Now just take it and assign it to over here, just like that. Okay, now let's create this to-do reducer. So inside of it, we're gonna have a switch case. So let me just bring it in. So this is how a reducer look. If you have already worked on useReducer, then you're going to understand how this works. It's just to understand how you can integrate TypeScript inside of it. So this is just the add action. We're just adding this action like this, the remove action. That it's just the things that I've already done in the project. This is how you create a useReducer in our React apps. So I'm just gonna make it commented out. So basically what I wanted to explain to you is this actions type and this state type. So yep. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take this reducer and I want you to integrate inside of our app. And if you don't know how the reducer works, just must watch my previous video, which is on useReducer. Awesome. So we have successfully understood React with TypeScript, and let's start integrating the drag and drop in our application. So let's make the suitable UI changes so that we can go ahead and make it look like this. So whenever we enter the to-do, it appears on active tasks, and we should have a completed task section over here. So let's go and make the changes in this particular app. So I'm gonna go to TodoList Component, and let me remove this div. And I'm going to add another div called container. And inside of this container div, we're gonna have another div called to-dos. Now this to-dos div will be for this particular active tasks, and we're gonna create another div for our completed tasks. So I'm gonna take this div and paste it, and let's add another class over here. Let's say remove. And inside of both of these, we're gonna add some code. We're gonna first of all add this span tag for the headings. So span.todos __ heading. All right, and inside of this, I'm gonna write active tasks. And below this, we're gonna take this to-dos state that is being passed from app.tsx, and we're going to render all of the to-dos. To-dos.map to-do. And again, just like previously, we are going to render our single to-do component over here. So single to-do, and we are going to pass it to-do, and we need to send to-dos, also send key, and set to-dos. Great. So this should work now. Okay, it doesn't look really good right now, so I'm gonna fix that later. So let's copy this up, and I'm gonna paste this inside of our to-do remove as well. Yeah, that looks ugly. So instead of active tasks, I'm gonna write completed tasks. So right now I'm just rendering this todos.map inside of this, but later we are going to have a separate state for completed to-dos, and we're gonna render that particular state over here. Now let's provide it some styling so that it doesn't look this ugly. So go to style.css and let's start by changing this width to 95% and come down over here. I'm just above this to-dos. I'm gonna add a container class that we created, the container, and we're gonna provide this container class display flex so that it appears in one row. So display flex, some width of 95%, and I'm gonna bring in a few styles so that we don't have to waste time writing CSS. We're gonna add some margin top to create some spacing. Justify content is going to be space between so that they have some space in between them, just like this. Some align items to flex start so that they are aligned to the very start of the container. Cool. Now we're gonna make some changes to this to-dos. So I'm gonna remove this and change the width to 47.5% because they are taking the half of the screen, right? So 47.5%. And I'm gonna remove this flex wrap, and I'm gonna make them columns so that they appear in one row. So right now, if you see, they appear side by side. So I'm gonna make them flex direction column, give them some padding, some border radius of 5 pixels and some background color. So let's see. Yep, that looks pretty good. And now we should make this single to-do to span whole of this div. But first of all, let's provide some to-dos heading style. So dot to-dos heading. It's gonna have some font size of 30 pixels. Provided 30 pixels. Now next, for to-dos single, we need to provide it full width, or maybe we don't need to provide it any width because the display is flex, so it's all automatically going to span it. Yep, there we go. And we are going to add some transition to it so that when we hover on this, it grows a little bit. So we are going to add that hover as well. But first, let me add just transition of 0.2 seconds. And let's add those hover styles just like this. So when we hover on this, box shadow will appear of 5 pixels, and we're gonna scale it to 1.03. So it's gonna get a little bit bigger. So see over here? Yep, this is the animation. Awesome. Now let's come down. Now we need to remove inside of media query. I'm gonna remove this. We don't need this anymore because with automatically controlled. But for our to-dos, when the screen is smaller than 1100 pixels, we're gonna have to-dos with a width of 45%. So let's check it out. Yep, just like that. Now next, inside of here in our to-dos, I'm gonna add some margin bottom so that it looks a little bit neat in smaller screens. Also, we need to remove this with 100% so that it creates a little bit spacing, and we're gonna add some container styles to make them from top to bottom. So we're gonna provide that container some flex direction of column. So with width of 95%. So currently it's half of it, around 50%, but we're gonna make flex direction to be column. Yep, just like this. And also this completed task should have a background color of red. So let's add a remove class that we added it. So background color is going to be red. Yep, that looks much better. Cool. Now I think our UI is done. Now let's start implementing the React Beautiful DND package into our application. So I'm gonna open a new tab and search React Beautiful DND. Let's go to this npm package, and here we go. We have the installation instructions over here, and we have some documentation. If you want to go ahead and read this, you can do that. So this is how the drag and drop will work. So we're gonna wrap whole of our app with this DragDropContext tag, and the place, that is this place where all of our to-dos will be rendered, we're gonna wrap it with Droppable, and one single to-do will be wrapped with Draggable Tag. If you're unable to understand this right now, don't worry, I'm gonna explain everything as we go along. Let's go to our terminal and paste this npm I React Beautiful DND. All right, there we go, it's installed. Let me close this terminal and let's go to our app.tsx, and I'm going to create a new state for our completed to-dos. So useState completed to-dos, and it's going to be an empty array to begin with, and it's going to be of type the same to-dos type. Now if you're coding in JavaScript, you don't need to worry about all of these types and stuff. You can directly just create useState like this. So now we need to send both of these to our to-dos list component over here. set completed to-dos, also this thing. Okay, so it's giving us error because this doesn't exist in our to-dos list. So let's go ahead and add this. So completed. Again, you don't need to worry about all of this if you are coding in JavaScript. So it was of type to-dos array. So we're gonna take this, add it over here, and set completed to-dos. Now how did we added the type to this? We just hover on this and take this. Okay, completed to-dos. Yep, that's fine. Alright, so our app is working fine till now. Now, how do we add React Beautiful DND to our app? So we need to go to our app.tsx, which we are already in. So we need to wrap this with something called DragDropContext. So DragDropContext. And we're gonna wrap whole of our app inside of this. Now we need to import it from React Beautiful DND. So import from React Beautiful DND, and just go over here, press CTRL space, control space. Whoops. Okay, it's not coming. Oh, I got it. We forgot to do one thing. We forgot to install the types for this particular library. So whenever you install few dependencies in TypeScript, they require you to install some types for them. So I'm gonna click over here, and it's going to take us over here. So we need to copy this line, or we can simply copy this over here and just go back and open another terminal and just install these types, because these types are important for this package to function properly. All right, there we go. It has installed. Let me close this terminal up. And now if I go and press control space and click on this, you're gonna see it has imported. Now it says an error, so it requires a prop called onDragEnd, which we are going to worry about later, but don't need to worry about right now. So let's go to to-do list, and inside of our to-do list component, we're gonna wrap it with something called droppable, because this area right here is a droppable area. This area is also a droppable area. So if I type anything, okay, so this is going to be our draggable thing, and this is going to be our droppable thing. So let's wrap this inside of our droppable. So right below this, I'm gonna add droppable, and I'm gonna take whole of this div and push it inside of it. Now this droppable is going to have an ID. Okay, so it's still giving that error on DragEnd. So let me just add this on DragEnd for now, just like this. Yeah, fine. So it has stopped giving error for there, but over here it's giving some error. It requires droppable props. So first of all, we need to give this a droppable ID. So droppable ID is nothing but to identify this droppable zone uniquely. So we're gonna provide it, let's say, to-dos list. Okay, and inside of it, we can't just put it just like this. We need to pass a callback, and then we need to shift it inside of there. So I'm gonna open a curly brace, and inside of a function, you can say, we're gonna take this div and paste it. Now inside of this function, it takes a few parameters. So first one will be provided, and second one I'll talk about later. So first of all, provided. So what is provided going to do? So we're going to take this provided and provide it to our parent div of this particular droppable zone. So to the parent div, we need to provide a ref, and ref will have provided dot inner ref, so that React Beautiful DND can control this as a droppable zone. And also we also need to spread provided dot droppable props. So that is what it was asking, provided dot droppable props. Yep, that's fine. Cool. So but still, if you go on over here and do anything, you're gonna see it's still not working, because we have to do a lot of things apart from this as well. So let's make this droppable zone as well, just like we did with this thing. So I'm gonna copy this up, go right over here, and let's put this div inside of here. And instead of to-dos list, I'm gonna change its name to to-dos remove. Okay, now we need to provide it the function again, just like we did with the previous one. So I'm gonna shift whole of this div inside of there, just like that. We're gonna take provided, and we're gonna take both of these things, and we need to provide it to our parent div, just like this. All right, cool. No error, and still not working. Nothing. Okay, yeah, I forgot one thing. We passed this completed to-dos, so we need this as well. So let me keep them over here, comma, set completed to-dos. Yep. So we're gonna take this completed to-dos and replace it with these to-dos. So with this, and instead of this, I'm gonna put set completed to-dos. Yep. So now you're gonna see it's not gonna show anything, even if we add a lot of things over here. Okay, cool. Also, one more thing I forgot to do is we need to send the index to our SingleTodos component, because it's going to track which of this particular to-do is being dragged. Don't worry, I'm going to explain it in just a second. So for now, just follow along. I'm passing this index as index. You're going to see how I'm going to use this. So again, it's giving error because SingleTodo does not exist except index right now, but we're going to make it accept it. All right, now let's go to SingleTodos and add the type for index, which is going to be a number. And over here as well, I'm gonna add index. Great. Now we need to make this SingleTodos as a draggable thing. So outside of this, I'm gonna add a tag called draggable. And I'm gonna wrap whole of this form in this draggable. Just like that. And similarly, we're gonna add the function inside of this as well, but let's just provide it a draggable ID. And we're gonna make this draggable ID so that it should be unique, right? So I'm just gonna provide the ID of the to-dos to this. So todo.id dot toString, and I'm gonna provide it the index so that it keeps the track of index. So this is the same index that we brought from the to-dos list component. And now inside of it, let's add our function. Take the form and put it inside of it. Just like this. You can see we put the form inside of this. Now again, we need to take provided. So you see, this is just a similar kind of stuff. We just have to set up few things and then you're good to go. So inside of this, we just need to provide few things. Provided dot draggable props. So earlier we put this thing, droppable props, but over here we're gonna put the draggable props. And another things, we're gonna add drag handle props. And of course we need to provide the ref so that it can control it properly. Yep, just like that. Now if we go to our browser and let's add something, and if I grab it, you can see it's working, but there's some issue over here. So if I go on and grab this, you can see this thing is levitating in the air. Why is this happening? Also, see, if we go over here, it rests over here, but then goes to its original position. So if I go on and make this like this, it's not saving the state. So we need to add this logic. So we're gonna add this logic later, but first we need to take care of this thing. Why is this levitating in the air? So to fix this, we're gonna go to our to-dos list, and right over here, we're gonna add something called provided dot placeholder. And similarly, we're gonna add this over here as well. Just like that. Now, if I go on and grab this, yep, you can see it produces an empty placeholder for that item. So if I go on over here, you can see it's providing us the space to be dropped on. Cool. But it's still not saving the state. So let's go on and write the logic for that. So if I go on to our app.tsx, you might remember this onDragEnd function. So I'm going to create this function now. So let's remove this and const onDragEnd, and let's add this function right over here. Now this onDragEnd sends this a parameter called result. So we're going to take result parameter. And result parameter will be of type drop results. Now drop results. So if you're coding in JavaScript, you don't need to do this obviously, but in TypeScript you do. So drop result, and you can see it has imported that from React Beautiful DND. And now let's see what is inside of this result variable. So let's go and log this. So result, and let's go to our browser. Open the console, and if I go on and drag and drop it, Yeah, you can see we got something. So let's explore this. Inside of this, we have two fields. First for destination and other for source. So what is source? Source is something where it came from. For example, if it came from over here, so it's going to give this that, okay, it has an index of 0 in this array. So it was on index of 0, and destination has where I dropped it. So I dropped it over here. So it's going to have a index of 1. So it went to index of 1 in this particular area. So how do we identify in which area are we? So remember, we provided it droppable ID. So it's gonna tell us it was in the droppable ID. It was dropped in the droppable ID, and it was taken from the to-dos list. So if I go on and take this and drop this over here, you're gonna see the source is to-dos list and the destination is to-dos remove. So yeah, this is how we're going to implement our logic. So let's find out. So we're gonna take out both of these things from result. So result, and we're gonna take out source and destination. Now what are we going to do with it? First of all, we're gonna check if there's no destination, if the destination variable is empty. How is that gonna happen? If we take this and wait, let me just first log it. Yeah, so if I take this and just leave it over in the empty space, so you're gonna see destination is null. So if the destination is null, we don't have to do anything. So if destination doesn't exist, so we're just gonna return it. Otherwise, second use case will be if we take this and we drop it in the same position. So if the source and the destination are same, then also we're gonna do nothing. So if destination dot droppable ID is equal to source dot droppable ID, and it's in the same index. So I'm gonna copy this up, paste this, and instead of droppable ID, write index. So if it's in the same index as well, so return. Great. So these were our base cases. So after this, we're gonna declare a variable called add, and we're gonna declare two more variables. First one will be active, which will have all of the to-dos in the to-dos list state, in this state. So we're gonna add it over here, and the other one will be complete, which is going to have all of the completed to-dos inside of it. Yeah, just like that. Now, why have I assigned it to this active? Why can't we just directly manipulate it? So again, when we have manipulated our active variable, we are going to provide it to our set to-dos state. So that will be a more neat way to do this. So now we're gonna check from where it came from. So we're gonna first check the source, and we're gonna take it from that particular source. So if, first of all, we're gonna check if it came from to-dos list droppable ID. So source dot droppable ID, if it's equal to to-dos list, then what are we going to do? Inside of this add variable, we're gonna take that particular thing. So active, and it was in the index of source.index, right? So we're gonna take source.index. We're gonna take it from the source.index, and then we are going to remove it from that particular place. So active dot splice. So you can see over here, splice is used to manipulate the arrays, remove or add inside of the array. So we're gonna go to source.index, and we are going to remove one item from that place. That is that item which we have taken in the add. Now we're gonna do this similarly for to-dos remove as well. So else to-dos remove. So if it was in the complete, it came from over there. So we're gonna take it from the complete, and we're gonna remove it from there. Okay, cool. So we have taken that particular to-do. Now we need to add it to the destination. So similarly, we're gonna check if, so let me just copy this up. So if the source.droppable ID is to-dos list, then what are we going to do? Active dot splice. So now we're going to add it inside of this array. Okay. So where do we need to add it? We need to add it destination.index. Now since we are not removing anything, so we're just gonna say 0. Don't remove anything. But what are we doing? We are adding it. So we're gonna say add. This add variable that we took from over here, we're gonna add it over here. Copy this up and paste it over here, and instead of active, we're gonna write complete. And now that we have manipulated both of these variables, now we're gonna add it to our state. So set completed to-dos, we're gonna have complete, and set to-dos is going to have active. Now this should work if everything seems fine. Yep, looks good. Let's go ahead and try it. If I take it and drop it over here, okay, something went wrong clearly. Oh, for adding this, we need to add this. For over here, we need to write destination, not the source, because we're checking for the destination, right? So let's go back and try to drop it. Yep, it's working absolutely fine. So you see how easy it is to implement drag and drop in our React.js applications. But wait, I need to do one more thing. So if I pick it up, I should see some indicator that it's in the drag mode, or if we hover on this, this should glow up, and if I hover on this, this particular part should glow up. So let's provide that. I'm gonna go to my code, and inside of my TodoList component, so I told you there's one more parameter that it takes, and that is a snapshot. So we're gonna take this snapshot, and let's go to our class names, and I'm gonna wrap this in this curly braces and provide this template string so that we can write JS inside of it. And I'm gonna open this curly braces and write snapshot.isDraggingOver. So if it's dragging over this, then provide it the class name of drag active. Otherwise, don't provide it any class names. Similarly, we're gonna do this to our completed as well. So add backticks and comma snapshot is dragging over, then drag remove, or probably drag complete. Let's go ahead and add CSS for both of these inside of our styles. I'm just gonna make their background color a little bit more intense. So if you go on, if I pick this up, you can see if I hover on this, it's gonna glow. If I hover on this, this is going to glow. Just like this. And I want to increase the shadow of this to do as well when it's grabbed by me. So if I go on and go to our single to do, again we also have the snapshot here as well. And with these to do single, I'm gonna add another class. So snapshot.is dragging. So over there it was is dragging over. So and over here it's is dragging. So we're gonna provide it the class name of drag. Otherwise, we're not going to provide any class name. And let's add these styles for it. I'm gonna add some intense background shadow, box shadow. So in 20 pixels, earlier it was 15 pixels if you remember. So if I grab this, you're gonna see the shadow has gotten a little bit intense. Awesome. So you see how easy it is to implement drag and drop in our React.js applications. I would love to see the projects that you guys make after learning this. So thank you all for watching this video. If you like this video, just give this video a huge fat thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Just go to youtube.com/roadsidecoder and click on the subscribe button. It motivates me to create more such awesome videos for you guys.